Welcome to the MuseCast, where we squeeze every last drop of inspiration out of Sunday's sermon.
Hey everybody, Dan Kent here. I'm flying solo today, so Shawna will be with us hopefully next week. We had a panel this weekend, and Shawna was on the panel along with Rob Kistler and Greg Boyd. And, let's just jump right in. They talked about these 4 directions of love, or 4 dimensions of love, I guess you could say. And the idea there is that, God, of course, pours his love out to us, and the more that we kind of fill up with that love, the more that love can overflow out of us. And we've kind of looked at, like, in the scriptures, there are like these 4 sort of targets, these 4 kind of directions that love pours out. First and foremost, we are called to love God, the source of our love and the source of our security and the source of our identity. And we are to love others as ourselves. And so that's the kind of the second and third direction. And then the 4th direction is to love God's creation and God's pets, basically, to love the earth and the animal kingdom. And so I guess what I really want to do, and they talked about that, and they each shared some ideas and some insights about each of those directions and dimensions of love. And I just want to offer a couple other reflections on that. The first thing is, loving others. To love others as ourselves. So to love others. And here's what I would say about that. And I talk about this a little bit in Confident Humility in the last chapter called, I think it's The Road to Social Vitality, I think is what the chapter is called. But what I argue is that we were made for agape love relationships. We're made for it. And that means that we can get nourished in love relationships, even if the person that we have agape love for does not reciprocate that love. What that means is that, and this is what I argue, what that means is that I can get nourished by outgoing love. And I tell you what, if you can tap into that, if you can tap into the joy of loving others as an end in itself, not as you wait for payment, not as you wait for your reward, not as you wait for a return on your investment, but just the act of love itself can be nourishing. And if you can tap into that, and you can see that, boy, that's unstoppable. That is a superpower. That's great. And I think that we can, because I think we're made to love others. And so I think we're also made to get nourished by outgoing love. And that just makes it so that we are so secure. We're not dependent on others for our security. In fact, we can get fed with or without their positive reaction. And I just think that is super profound. The second part of that is that we are to love our neighbors as ourselves. And so what Jesus teaches there is he's teaching that our love for others is self-indexed. And we kind of know this. And we've seen people who they have such a very low view of themselves, and they just kind of beat themselves up. And, I am despicable and I am horrible. And, oh, but you're great, they'll say. And it just rings hollow. It's hard to feel loved by someone who has this exaggerated self-hatred for themselves. It rings inauthentic. It rings empty and hollow. And so I think that there is something very important about being secure in God's love for us as demonstrated on the cross, so that we can then genuinely, with credibility, love others. Really all of this love that we're called, these directions and so forth, it really is based on the love that God gives us first. And so we have this one agape love from God, and it pours into us and it overflows out of us, and it expresses itself with many different targets and in many different ways. But it is that one sort of love with many expressions, and learning and being creative with how we express that love, I think, is part of the fun of being a disciple. It's interesting because I think it's also related to gratitude, because, in the, I think, 11th and 12th century, there were these plays and these kind of public kind of performances about the devil And part of the story and the narration there around the devil is this idea that the devil had a really hard time acknowledging God. The devil loved himself, but he wanted to love himself as if he were his own creation. He didn't want to give God any credit for his splendor and his brightness and his brilliance. And in other words, he didn't want to have a debt to God. He wanted to be amazing in and of himself. And so what that means is that he also did not have any gratitude. And I just think that's really interesting, because I think that gratitude is a part of what this love is. And when we have love for God, we have this gratitude for God. We recognize the profound value and the dumb luck of having such a good God, such a great creator. But it's also true for ourselves. When we have love for ourselves, we recognize the just strange kind of wonder, like, why should I exist? And yet here I do, and I get this opportunity to experience love, and to see God, and to learn about God, and to experience God's creation and so forth. And there's that inherent gratitude there, and that gratitude assumes value. You're grateful because you think that it's precious. You're grateful because you think this is great. There's something good here. And if it wasn't good, you couldn't really be grateful, which is another reason why we have to kind of fight the urge to hate ourselves and to call ourselves despicable and things like that, because you can't be grateful for something that you loathe. You can't be grateful for something that you hate. And so, just that, I think that's just part of it. It's just being grateful and seeing just how wonderful everything is, and just how it doesn't have to be. Like, I don't have to be here, and seeing this kind of dumb luck that we have, that we are here, and dwelling in that and meditating on that. And I think the more you meditate on that, the more you will feel gratitude, and therefore the more you will experience that love. And you see it in nature too. You just see all of the beauty, the grandeur, the splendor, and you can ask the same thing. You can ask, why should all of this exist? And yesterday I was walking on a trail over, it was walking towards Stillwater from Maplewood, kind of over by 694. There's like a fleet farm over there off of Highway 36, right by 694. But there's this trail that goes through the woods underneath 694, and then through this kind of natural area. And I'm walking, and, about 30 minutes into my walk, this deer steps out, maybe 10 yards ahead of me, and just stops and stares at me. And I look at this deer, and it's like, what good luck I have that deer exists, and that she is right there. And here we are, both together, both sharing in this lucky moment that we have. And I think the more that we can tap into those types of things, to understand there is just this one love that we get from God that overflows in us. But part of that love is just this profound recognition of the luck and value that we have, and also tapping into our gratitude for it. And that happens in every direction and in every dimension of our love. Shawna should be back next week, and looking forward to chatting with you all on YouTube at 4:00 Central Time, and I will be in the chat there. And I hope you guys have a great week. And if I don't talk to you on YouTube, see you next week.